Hello, America. Welcome to another presentation of Under the Macroscope, a subsidiary of MackianObservations.com. Today's subject is strange bedfellows. If you've been watching the news for the past several weeks, you've heard a great number of negative shots at President Biden, coming from Democrats and Republicans. Many are wondering what to make of all of this stupid noise. First of all, let's understand that there are actually four major political factions operating in our country. We have Democrats and Republicans who genuinely love our country and want the best for all of us. It's not that they have different goals. They just have different ideas about how to achieve those goals. Even so, love of country over selfish politics always brings them to the table of reason, where common good always prevails. The other factions are what I call the Slimocrats, slim on guts and brains, who pose as Democrats, and the Repugnants, so repugnant in my opinion that there is no other name for them. They pose as Republicans. We heard President Obama tell the Slimocrats during the midterm election of his second term in office when he said, "My name is not on the ballot, but these policies are. And it's up to you to convince the American people that these policies are good for our country." The Repugnants went all over the country, accusing the Slimocrats of voting with President Obama 95 or 97% of the time, depending upon which Repugnant was talking at any given time. And the weak and clueless Slimocrats didn't have the guts to stand up and say, "Yes, we voted with President Obama because these policies are good for America." His record is solid, obvious proof. They let the Repugnants roll over them and lost their bids for election or re-election. Chaos followed and led us into a very dismal period at the end of President Obama's second term. Thank God that path of destruction came to an end when President Biden was elected. And there are still some who are trying to challenge his election to this day. That brings me to my next point. President Biden is trying to lead a country that was severely wounded and bleeding when he took office. He was left with a tremendous number of fires to extinguish and is on the right track, in my opinion. His attempts have been noble and characteristic of a leader who has cognition and a heart for the people instead of focusing on spreading a lot of malicious nonsense that only adds to the already stifling confusion. Yes, the choices that have to be made are difficult, but they must be made with thoughtful consideration for the greater good. The Biden haters sat and watched with orgasmic glee as our democracy suffered repeated blows during the 4 years prior to President Biden's election. Now that someone with cognition is trying to fix the mess we are in, the experts, EGG, are crawling out of the woodwork, trying to point out what needs to be done. They really believe that they have President Biden's Achilles heel with all of the uproar over the withdrawal from Afghanistan and the most recent immigration crisis with refugees from Haiti. Not so. Afghanistan ended badly, in part because it was badly initiated due to a foolish concentration on the role of Iraq in 9/11, when there's still no clear evidence of such a role. We needed to get out of Afghanistan. President Biden made that very difficult choice because it was necessary. After thousands of deaths, 20 years and trillions of dollars spent in one of the most unstable and unpredictable regions of the world, it was time. We went there to right a wrong and to help people who claimed that they wanted to be free. It is quite obvious that many of them, except those who helped us, didn't want freedom enough to do what it takes to secure it. Their efforts, in my opinion, were less than half-hearted. Their so-called leader, who vowed to fight until the end, ran and hid when his people needed him most. Confucius said, "Give a man a fish, and he will eat for a day. Teach him to fish, and he will eat for a lifetime." We went into Afghanistan and tried to teach the people how to fish for what they claimed to desire most. It was quite clear that whenever they got a bite, they screamed for us to run to them and grab the pole, or they just dropped the pole into the water and the pole and the catch were gone before we could get to them. That simply could not continue indefinitely. It became obvious that another 20 days, let alone another 20 years, was far too long. The American lives lost during the withdrawal were bound to happen, given the extreme circumstances, no matter what. I was deeply saddened to hear that some people refused to attend a memorial service where President Biden joined the families of the soldiers who were killed by a suicide bomber. I hope that this wasn't an attempt to snub President Biden, because if it was, they actually disgraced the memorial tribute to their loved one. Every soldier knows going in that death is a possibility, but they are willing to make that sacrifice for their country without trying to cast blame on any particular individual when the war takes a life. War is hell, and they know that going in. I hope that those who let their selfish, arrogant politics smear what should have been a heartfelt thank you to their loved ones will find the strength to forgive themselves. I am sure that their loved ones have already forgiven them. As far as the immigration crisis is concerned, it was a volcano erupting to begin with and has been for decades. All of a sudden, Slimocrats and repugnants are attacking President Biden because they know that they are guilty of not doing more as elected officials to help solve the problem. One member of Congress was noted for making the statement that they were disappointed in Vice President Harris's telling illegal immigrants not to try to enter America. The statement that this person reportedly made was, "How can you tell people not to leave a house that is on fire?" Our immigration system has been on fire for a very long time, and it is foolish not to tell people not to go into a house that is already on fire. It is obvious that Slimocrats and repugnants are joining forces for a variety of reasons, all of which will come to no good for our country. They don't want to pass President Biden's budget because they say it costs too much. I can't help but wonder, how much is it costing us for Congress to protect the wealthiest people on the planet from paying their fair share of taxes? Could it be there are numbers of people in Congress who are for sale? God forbid. Mind you, President Biden is wrestling with all of this while at the same time trying to defeat a pandemic, one that was grossly mishandled and neglected when it first swept the country and has already killed over 700,000 American citizens alone. That number is increasing daily, while brain-dead citizens, many of whom are in government, are still calling COVID a hoax and are refusing to comply with safety measures. That level of stupidity is astounding and extremely dangerous. Just another Mackian observation. Thanks for listening. Let me hear from you. Go to our website, MackianObservations.com, and read our mission statement. You may also click on donation and make a contribution of your choice. Thank you so much for your support. See you next time under the macroscope.